In this module, we're going to do a high-level review of process mapping. And this quote is credited to W. Edwards Deming. If you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. So let's look at the three major elements. We have process inputs: people, equipment, environment, procedures, and material. We have the transformation that takes place. Those are the process steps. And then we have the outputs of the product or the service. So back to the inputs. Inputs are the variables that contribute to or influence the process steps. There are controllable inputs. Those are variables that can easily be changed to measure the effect on the output. There are critical inputs, variables that have been statistically proven to affect one or more of the outputs. Then there are the noise variables. Those are difficult to control. And we have value-added steps in the process. Those are steps that add value to the customer. We're actually transforming a product or a service. We have non-value-added steps. Those are process steps that do not transform a product or a service and don't add value to the customer. We have non-value-added but necessary steps. Those could be regulations. It could be FDA regulations. It could be part of our ISO process, but it doesn't necessarily transform the product or the service. And finally, the outputs. Those are variables that result from each process step. So that's a high-level overview of those three major elements of processes. So first, let's talk about flowcharts or block diagrams. These are very simple but good visuals. In this case, we have the boundaries, or the start and the stop. We have three steps in this block diagram or flowchart, and a decision point with a loop back. We're going to use standard symbols, and we'll use these in other process maps as well. This would be the start or stop symbol, a connection if we go to more than one slide or page, the process step or sub-processes or alternate processes, decision points, delays, or documentation, storage such as data that's stored or direct access storage. So flowcharts or block diagrams, simple to create but provide a nice visual of the flow. An input-output process map looks similar to a block diagram, except now we're going to add the process outputs for each step. We'll add all of the inputs for that process step. We'll also add the critical to customer characteristics or the final process outputs. Then we'll add for each input the target value in the upper spec and lower spec. And for each output, we'll add the target value in the upper specification and lower specification. Input-output process maps, they're really used to understand how the inputs are impacting the outputs. If we're trying to reduce variability or defects or scrap, we're going to use an input-output process map. A Swimlane map or deployment flow chart where we have multiple functions involved. We're cross departments, cross functions. We'll list one function per swim lane. We'll have the boundaries just like other process maps. We'll have all the process steps with standard symbols to use. And then we'll be able to identify when we do handoffs from one swim lane to another, or one function to another, or when do we have decision points or loopbacks. So this type of map could be called a transactional process map, or a business process value stream, or used to look for waste in the process, or delays, or lead time delays. The final one that we'll look at is a manufacturing value stream map, and this is an example. Here we have all the process steps: the saw, the rough turn, the finish turn, the grind, and the hob. For each process step, we have the cycle time, setup time, the utilization rate, the number of shifts, the availability. We also have the customer and all the data that goes with the customer. We have the lead time ladder, so inventory days and cycle times. We have the level of inventory between each step. We have the communication that goes to each step, the daily schedule. We have our supplier and the forecast that goes to our supplier, the forecast that comes from our customer. Manufacturing value stream. We'll use these to eliminate waste in the manufacturing, to reduce lead time, to reduce non-value added activity. So process mapping, they can be used as inputs to a cause and effect diagram or fishbone diagram, or a cause and effect matrix known as an XY matrix. They can be used to create training plans or control plans or responsibility matrix such as a RACI or RASCI. They can be used to create work instructions or even be part of standard operating procedures. We use them in improvement workshops or improvement initiatives. So don't forget to download your complimentary Excel toolboxes containing these templates as well as many others, available at valuegenerationpartners.com. Use the downloads page to find these different toolboxes that represent these different initiatives containing many templates and tools. So good luck using the various types of process maps to understand current state and to create ideal future state conditions.